The greatest challenge and opportunity of our generation is to fully assess and understand the psychological significance of Afrocentric thought and scholarship. The Afrocentric scholars like Dr. Ben, John Henry Clark, Jacob Carruthers, Wade Nobles, Naeem Akbar, Francis Cress Welsing, Asa Hilliard, all of the greats, Chancellor Williams, George G.M. James, they gave us this wonderful, wonderful body of work that served one specific psychological function. And that function was to provide an inoculation against white supremacist thought and philosophy. Up until that point, white scholarship had a total monopoly on knowledge, and they were able to tell their story about knowledge and the creation of knowledge in a way that completely complemented their own agenda. What the Afrocentric scholars did was they demonstrated for us and revealed to us the Black African roots of all of the Western philosophical, scientific, and intellectual achievements. That was the purpose and the function of Afrocentrism. Okay, so that no matter how far the white man goes with telling his story, you always know that you can find an African root to it, right? Because essentially everything that they're doing now really was born out of the Egyptian mystery schools. And you can say that with a high level of certainty. Now, once you go beyond that function, the thing that you were using to medicate yourself or to inoculate yourself ends up becoming a poison, right? So it's fine to talk about how all the figures in the Bible were black, for example. That's fine. It becomes a sickness when you now try to say that those people are your people, that you are this tribe or you are that tribe that's mentioned in the Bible. That's where it starts to become mental illness. And I only know this because of my involvement in the Orisha tradition. Practicing Orisha then allows you to distinguish and differentiate the different ethnicities and lineages and sources of Black African identity and genius. In other words, Black is not a monolith. Sure, there are Black people in the Philippines and there are Black people in ancient Mongolia and Black people in ancient Japan, and all of those things may be true. But it becomes illness when you start to now assume that all of those Black people are the same Black people. They aren't the same, right? And it becomes pure insanity when you say that not only are all these people the same, but I am those people. That I'm not related to the Black people of the Philippines. I am not related to the Black people of India. I am not related to the Black people of ancient, I don't know, Mongolia, Japan. Those aren't my people, right? That's not my bloodline. That's not my lineage. Likewise, I am not related to the Black people of the Bible. None of those people have any relevance to my life, my identity, my source. And this is perhaps the last psychological and intellectual chain that our people need to break in order to fully see ourselves. And let me give you an example of how this became really clear to me through my worship. Like most people, I was exposed to the diaspora Orisha traditions first. So I was introduced to the Cuban system, which led me to the Brazilian system, and then Haitian, Trinidadian, etc. And in every instance, what you find is syncretism. In Brazil, in Cuba, in Trinidad, and Haiti, all of them have a form of syncretism. But the interesting thing is that you can find a single Orisha, like Shango, and Shango will be matched with or syncretized with one saint in Brazil and a different saint in Cuba, and then a different saint in Haiti, and then still another saint in Trinidad. So that'll be a little assignment for you. Go and see how the Orisha are syncretized with different saints in different parts of the diaspora. And you got to ask yourself, why would the Yoruba, it's the same Yoruba people, why would one group who is in Brazil syncretize this saint, this Orisha, with one saint, and another group will syncretize him with another saint? Well, it's because it was purely psychological. This was all functional. They were just doing this as a coping mechanism. Hey, you know what? The white man won't let us be Orisha devotees, but we can be Catholics. So let's just stick whichever Catholic saint looks the most like this Orisha, has the attributes of this Orisha. We'll put the saint on the front, and when we do the parade downtown, we'll be proclaiming that we are followers of Saint Geronimo or Saint Joseph or Saint Jude or whatever. But when we get out of the town and go back to the barracks, we know that we're going to be worshiping Shango. But it's totally arbitrary. What they just match them up as quickly and as conveniently as possible. But in their minds, they always knew. And you can tell this because even though the saints will vary, when you look at Shango in Cuba, and Shango in Brazil, and Shango in Haiti, and Shango in Trinidad, you're going to find that they're all talking about the same Shango. He's going to have the same attributes. He's going to have the same stories. He's going to have the same iconography. These are all ways that you understand. They all know who Shango is. Which saint they matched him to was totally arbitrary. That was just a matter of convenience. Likewise, African Americans have our own form of syncretism, but ours is just widespread. I mean, let's say ours is more biblical, because here in the United States, Protestantism de-emphasizes the saints. The saints are not nearly as important in the Protestant tradition as they are in the Catholic tradition. So what did black people do? We grafted ourselves onto the Hebrews, who were suffering 400 years of bondage, right? Where the Bible is more important here in the United States, where the saints are more important in Latin America. So while they grafted themselves onto the saints, we grafted ourselves onto biblical characters or groups of biblical characters in the Bible, right? But it's totally arbitrary. In the same way that Shango has nothing to do with St. Barbara, African Americans have nothing to do with the Jews. We are not related at all whatsoever. It is totally arbitrary, right? Once you can see that and understand that, then you start to make this distinction and separate yourself from that story altogether. And you realize that, sure, there's great wisdom in the Bible, and there's great wisdom in the Torah, and there's great wisdom in the Quran, but there's also great wisdom in the sutras, right? There's great wisdom in the Tao. But in the same way that I'm not related to the people or any of the stories that are in the Bible or the Torah, I'm not related to any of the people in the sutras. None of the things that are mentioned in the Tao are directly related to my lineage and my source and my origin. These are just philosophical frameworks that I can benefit from. This is highly liberating, but it's also quite terrifying. And I'm going to make an analogy for you that will help you understand what we're grappling with psychologically. We know that at emancipation, that our people were given freedom, right? And so you were suddenly no longer a slave of Mr. Johnson. You could go wherever you want, but you don't have any resources. You don't have anywhere, you don't know anybody in another town. You don't have any means to get to any other place. So what happens? Mr. Johnson then makes you a sharecropper. He says, we're going to go into business together. But since you don't have a plow and you don't have a donkey and you don't have supplies, I will make an arrangement with Mr. Mills down at the store, and you can get these things on credit. I'll make sure you have your rations of sugar and flour and bread, etc., etc., shoes, rent, right? So you start out the season $1,000 in debt. And so you work and work and work and work and work and work, and you have the best year ever, but you still only made $200 profit because you had to pay off this debt, right? And anytime you tried to exercise too much independence and too much freedom, then the owner of the land and the keeper of your debt could leverage that debt against you and put you under more duress. Psychologically, philosophically, the same thing happens when you go too far with these biblical characters, which is what we saw with Whoopi, Kanye, and Kyrie. They went too far, right? And they started to say that not only do we know about these people, but we are those people. We get to dictate what the identity and the movement and the culture of those people are because it's us. And that's when they leverage and said, oh, no, no, no. You don't understand the nature of our agreement. We own that story. We only allow you to tell that story within a certain context. And the minute you go beyond the limits of what we want you to do with that story, we're going to bring out the heavy books. And we're going to bring out the heavy hitters. We're going to put you back in check and leverage what we know about the real story and about your real story. Right? So Orisha allows you to do something like BRICS. You guys know about BRICS. It's a different currency that is emerging. I haven't heard much about it lately, but Brazil, Russia, India, China, and I'm not sure what the S is for. Singapore, I'm not sure what the S is. But BRICS is a different currency that says we're not gonna base our wealth on the dollar. We're not gonna evaluate currency according to what the dollar is. We're going to create our own alternate universe. That's what Orisha does for you. It allows you to see, wait a minute, I don't need to buy into that story at all. That story doesn't pertain to me. The Bible, the Quran, the Torah, and all that, you guys can have that story. I'm not going to borrow against your legacy. I have my own legacy. I have my own strategic alliances. I have my own constellation of relationships with other ethnic groups. It's not a question of who is the relationship between David and Isaac and Moses and all of them. It's about who is Tado relative to Oromia, relative to the Ogiso, relative to the Obas. What is there's a whole different cultural constellation that really pertains to me. That's what I need to concern myself with. What those folks are over there talking about is only interesting as a point of reference. And I only need to reference it at the moment that I need to check you. That I need to check white philosophy. At the moment that I need to check white psychology. At the moment I need to check the white intellect. Then I can draw upon what I know about the history of Egypt and Nubia and Greece and all that. That's the only purpose that it has. But I cannot identify with that story. It's not my story. That is a challenge for many of our bright minds because we can't see ourselves like our brothers and sisters or our forefathers and foremothers who couldn't see themselves independently of the sharecropping system. Many of us are intellectual and philosophical and religious sharecroppers. Let it go. Let it go. Release it. You don't have to play that game. You don't have to engage in that line of thinking at all whatsoever. Turn your back on it. Face who you are. Be who you are. Create the legacy and the future that you need in order to increase your autonomy, your power, your influence, and your self-determination. This is fundamental to what you gain as you reclaim your roots. And this is part of what I want to offer you in my upcoming course, Reclaim Your Roots, Yoruba Spirituality for African Americans. This is a breakthrough moment for our people. This is a strategic moment for our psychological and spiritual liberation. If you're someone who really and truly wants to be free, and you want to use your freedom to create positive change in our community and our future generations, I want you to visit me at obafemio.com or odishalifestyle.com, and better yet, check the link in the description below. Enroll in this course, and let's start working together to help you live the medicine that will heal your life and heal the lives of those who you are destined to serve. I look forward to working with you. Bye for now. Au revoir.